Hello, welcome back. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about speaking, which I know is the skill everybody worries about the most. It was the same with me. And I'm going to be honest with you. I remember when I was learning that I was very, very concerned about listening because I just felt so out of place when I couldn't understand what people were saying around me. Out of place means literally lost, like, I don't belong here. I felt completely out of place. I felt lost when I couldn't understand people. And this really knocked my confidence down. To knock it down is to destroy it, okay? It really knocked my confidence down. So, of course, I wanted to speak better. I wanted to speak more. I wanted to speak because I didn't know any English when I started learning. So I wanted to speak. But the main thing for me was to be able to understand what people were saying. And there were so many situations where people said something to me and I had no clue what they had said. I had no idea. So really, that I could not even pick up one word out of the whole sentence. So I didn't even know what it was about. And that made me tense, apprehensive, scared. Whenever somebody approached me, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die now. It made me so scared to have any sort of interaction with people. It made me feel very inferior, very small in comparison to other people. And it made me believe that English was not for me for a long time. It made me believe that there would never be a stage or a point in my learning where I would actually start learning and understanding and communicating well. So listening was number one for a long time for me. And then came speaking. And the trouble with speaking, when I started speaking, the main trouble for me was regarding two things. Number one, pronunciation. So, not being able to pronounce things in the way I thought you were supposed to pronounce them. Because this is what happens. You're interacting in English, your brain receives the information, receives English, and it kind of translates the sound into the sounds of your language. So when you say the word, you say it using the sounds you know. So that was a very big thing for me, pronunciation. There were countless is a great word. You cannot count, okay? Countless moments where I said something and people did not understand. And that was awful. And not being able to phrase something in a way that a native speaker recognizes. So to phrase something is to put the words in a sentence and create a sentence. So I would try to say something using the words I was kind of learning, but when you try to do that, most of the time you create a sentence based on what you know from your native language, which was what I did. So my native language is Portuguese, so I was creating sentences using the structure from Portuguese, which is okay sometimes. It's not always going to be wrong. Well, it depends. If your first language is Japanese, it's always going to be wrong. But if it's a language that has some sort of similarity to English, then not so bad. But a lot of the time, it's just not natural to the natives. So, because I lived in a city called Norwich, I spent the first 5 years of my life in England in Norwich. And back then, we were talking 23 years ago, back then there were no foreigners practically in Norwich. So there were some foreigners. Foreigners are people from different countries, immigrants, okay? There were some, but not many. So everywhere was just English people from Norwich. So we're talking English people, most of them who had never left Norwich. Like that, their yearly goal was to go on a day trip to London. Like that was what they did. So London was their big thing. So many of them had never even been abroad. So, to them, it was really difficult to be able to understand somebody who was phrasing a sentence using their words in a way they did not recognize. And I keep saying this, you guys, speaking is something we must work on. And the best way to improve speaking is through repetition of sentences. And I say this to you because this is the exact way I learned speaking myself. Okay, that's how I improved my own speaking. So every time, as a learner, every time I started just creating my own sentences without any sort of logic, any sort of understanding of how the language works, it went wrong. And it made me feel bad because I would say it to the person I was talking to, and I could see in their face that they did not really understand. So they were trying to understand me. So you can see that they're not relaxed talking to you. Have you noticed that? You're talking to a native speaker and you can tell they're not relaxed. They're making an effort to have that communication with you. That can't be good. That's not the best way to talk to somebody. So I noticed that was happening a lot. And I realized that instead of just speaking with no preparation, with no logic, with no knowledge, I would be better off. Better off means, it would be better for me. I would be better off repeating sentences I was hearing around me. So what I was doing was listening to a lot of English. So I would spend hours at school every day. I'm talking about a normal school for teenagers, not English school, okay? So I would go to school at about 9 and come back at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would be listening to English the whole day. Because my classmates and my teachers were all English, apart from my brother. And my brother was not my classmate. So I would see him at lunchtime most days, but not every day. But that was it. It was just English. And I would come home. And I'm really grateful, actually, that I moved to England at this period of time where there was no easy internet access. So I did not have a computer when we first arrived. It took us a couple of months to get a computer. And there was no smartphone, so I could not just text my friends in Brazil. So what I was supposed to be doing, what I wanted to be doing as well, to be making sure that I was actually learning faster, was to be listening to more English when I came home. And that's exactly what I did. So I would come home and I would be listening to more and more English on TV. There was no Brazilian television in my house. It was just English telly. And I'd be watching lots of different shows, soap operas. There was an Australian soap opera I loved called Home and Away. I did not understand. I did not even understand the title, Home and Away. I did not know what this away meant. But I would watch it anyway. I would just watch it. And all sorts of TV shows, just lots of it. And then I started watching films in English about a year later. I started watching films in English and I started to pick up on sentences that I loved. Sentences that sounded very beautiful to me or that I realized would be very useful in my day-to-day life. And I started using those sentences with people around me, not only from passive learning, so when I was watching something, but when I was interacting with people, whatever they would say to me, I would be so, guys, you have no idea, I would be so focused having interactions with people that I would always learn something. I honestly don't think there was an interaction I had in the first 2 years of my life in England where I didn't learn anything. I was always learning something because I was listening. And I would then take that away with me and I would repeat that out loud at home so that I could get used to the sentence and then say it to somebody else, like pass it on to people. This was my learning, essentially, okay, for the most part. And I'm not even just talking about the first few years. I'm talking about what happened later on until today. Until today, if I'm looking to learn something new, which I am all the time, I say this on Instagram a lot. You guys know that I don't see a finish line to learning. I don't think there is one. And I am very keen on learning. I'm keen, I want to, I like it, I'm excited about it. And I don't see learning as a threat. it doesn't make me feel bad when I learn something new. It makes me really excited. So until today, my best, most natural and successful learning approach is to listen really actively or read really actively and then repeat what I saw. So now I have enough English knowledge to be able to kind of play around with the sentences. So I get the whole idea of the sentence and I can play around with it a bit more. So that's good. But in the beginning, it was really just repeating exactly what I was hearing. And that's okay. And then you form kind of this notion of how the language is built, which gives you the feeling that you are in fact speaking more, because you are. So one of the biggest misconceptions about learning to speak English is that you need to be creating your own sentences and, oh, I don't speak well because I can't construct my idea and I can't speak, I can't explain myself. Well, you will eventually, but before this stage, there needs to be some repetition, some copying. You're just kind of reproducing what you hear. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I'll not get tired of saying this. It's really the same as what happened to us when we were little and we were learning to speak our language. We were not creating sentences, we were just repeating what we were hearing. So we do the same when we're learning a foreign language. We repeat what we hear and then we get used to that and then we get more confident. And eventually we start kind of putting our own sentences together. Something else I would like to say about speaking, which is so key. Okay, I need you guys to understand something. Please stop with the whole I need conversation classes thing. Yeah, conversation classes are great. It's an opportunity for you to speak, but they only work if you know what you're doing. And if you have a teacher who knows what they are doing as well. Let me explain what I'm saying to you. The adult brain needs more than just speaking for the sake of speaking to improve speaking. So we have this belief that, for me to speak better, all I have to do is speak. Just speak. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. It doesn't matter if I'm using the same words all the time. It doesn't matter if people have to make an effort to understand me. I am speaking, so I'm going to improve speaking. No, you will not. That's not how your brain works. Speaking gets better when you have a proper strategy. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about understanding what your mistakes are, fixing them, acknowledging when you make a mistake, and correcting them there and then. So this is so key. Most people don't do it. Okay, they just repeat the same mistakes. They're not even listening. They don't listen to themselves. If you're speaking and you're not hearing what you're saying, how do you expect to be hearing what other people are saying and therefore be learning? So you have to learn to listen. That's the main thing in your learning. That's going to dictate the success of your whole learning, your speaking, your listening, and everything else you do. Okay, everything originates, everything starts with listening. Second thing, which I wanted to say about speaking in that sense of, I just need to speak so I can speak better. Second thing is that you will be repeating the same words you know over and over and over again. So you're just repeating what you already know. You're not actually improving your speaking. For you to improve your speaking, you need to bring different vocabulary and better structures into whatever you're saying. That requires a strategy. So remember this, speaking is great and it's super important, but you want to improve speaking, you have to change the way you go about speaking. You go about speaking means the way you approach it, the way you look at it, the way you do it. Most people I've met who were extremely talkative people, those people that just don't shut up, they just blah, 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 blah the whole time. Most of them did not speak well. I'm talking about non-native speakers of English like us. People that just speak without thinking, without correcting themselves, without making sure they're using different words, without picking up on what people are saying. They didn't speak well. They're just blah, blah, blah. So what kind of speaker do you want to be? The blah, blah, blah speaker, or the person that makes people stop to listen to what you're saying? Whoa, I know that was a good one. Have a good week. See you later.